Hey y'all, this is Southern Woods here. Welcome back, welcome to the video game franchise tournament, where I use the magical bowl filled with different categories to determine which video game franchise is the best in history. They will go head to head in a category battle. All right, this is the top 32 video game franchises going at it. I had a big play-in tournament with an additional 32 seeds, winner becoming the 32nd seed in this one. If you hadn't seen it, I recommend you go check it out now before I spoil who won. 3, 2, 1. It was the Elder Scrolls who ended up making it to this big game. All right, put in the comments below before we start what is your favorite video game franchise to play and who deserves to win? 16 categories in the Magical Bowl. This is round 1. Each matchup will be best out of 5. First to 3 category points wins. Let's start with the first matchup. The number 1 video game franchise, number 1 seed based off of revenue, Mario, versus the 32nd seed, the Elder Scrolls. What will be the first category drawn in this tournament? We have 3. Category 3, y'all, is going to be established date. All right, when the first game of the franchise came out, whichever one is older will get the point. For Mario, that was 1985. All right, for all y'all out there, that's almost 40 years ago now coming up. For the Elder Scrolls, it's 1994. Mario is older. They're going to get the first point of this tournament, going up 1-0. Next category we got is 8. All right. Category 8 is going to be soundtrack. All right, the better soundtrack in the franchise overall will be the winner here. And of course, this type of stuff is kind of, it's not cut and dry, so I'll try to explain it a little bit, all right, for y'all. But looking at the soundtracks, I think the Elder Scrolls definitely has a one-up on Mario. All right, there's a lot of big epic scores, especially in Skyrim and Dragonborn. All right, there's a lot of grandeur and feeling of exploration within them. All right, Mario, classic, right? Cheerful themes. All right, everyone knows the Mario theme song. However, I'm giving the nod here to the Elder Scrolls. They go and tie this up 1-1. Next up, we have category 2. Category 2 is going to be my personal preference here. I've never played the Elder Scrolls, but I'll play the heck out of some Mario. They're going up 2-1 now. It's first to 3 points, so if Mario gets this third point, they win and move on to the Big 16. All right, next up we have category 4. Category 4 is going to be total number of games in the franchise. All right, most are base game, but I did include some spin-offs. All right. If they seemed viable. For Mario, it's over 200 games in the franchise, which is the most in this tournament. For the Elder Scrolls, 27. So Mario is going to get a pretty convincing win here, winning 3-1, moving on to the Big 16. The Elder Scrolls made it to the big game, surviving the previous tournament, but they are out early here. All right, the next matchup we have is the 17th seed Star Wars against the 16th seed Madden. Of course, being the National Football franchise game. First category we got is 5. Category 5 is going to be logo preference here. So whichever logo I enjoy more is going to win between Madden and, who did I say? Star Wars. Of course, Star Wars, very iconic logo, the black and yellow, very clean cut. I enjoy it. Looking at Madden, I hate it. I think it's clunky. It's just a word between 2 other logos, EA Sports and the NFL. I don't like that. Star Wars is going up 1-0. All right, next category we have is 10. Category 10 here is going to be innovation. Innovation. So which video game franchise brought more innovation to video games in general? So Star Wars, of course, has explored many genres, all right, different type of games like a Battlefront RPG style, all right, storytelling. They've explored all those things, but they haven't really introduced something new and innovative, in my opinion. Madden, I think they revolutionized the sports gaming. All right, they helped popularize football simulations and not a whole lot, but I think just a little bit more uniqueness there. So I'm giving the nod here to Madden. They're going to tie it up 1-1. Next category, we have category 7. Category 7 is going to be storyline. Whichever one of these has the best storylines. Obviously, it's going to be Star Wars. With Madden, you can have some in your own little custom story world, but Star Wars is just so much more in-depth that I have to give the nod to them. They go up 2-1. Next up, we have category 9. My 9s have lines. I know that's not traditional. I am paving the way for a new world with my 9s. We're going to do cultural significance. See which one has more significance culturally than the other, right? Because that's what that word means. Look, Star Wars, of course, very significant franchise in general, but do the games really have that cultural significance themselves? A little bit. However, I think Madden is just such a juggernaut culturally. The standard for football video games and a staple of competitive sports gaming, e-gaming in general, that I feel like I just have to give the slight nod here to Madden. They tied up 2-2. Next point wins and goes on to the Big 16. Next up, we have category 6. All right, the number that should have a line but doesn't, because that's not how I do things around here. Category 6 is going to be character popularity. I got a list of like the top 50 most iconic. Hold on. Sorry, got a phone call. But anyways, there's a list of like the top 50 most iconic video game characters, and if one of those characters from one of these franchises is on the list, they'll get a point, and whoever's higher up. But Madden and Star Wars, neither of them have a top 50 character, so we're going to re-roll. Next up is category 3. Category 3 being the established date here for Star Wars 1982. Meanwhile, for Madden 1988, Star Wars 6 years older. They're going to get the nod here, beating Madden, going on to the Big 16. Madden, one of my favorites, is out of here. All right, next up, we have the 9th seed Assassin's Creed against the 24th seed Dragon Quest. First category we're going to draw is 8. 8 being the storyline. No, soundtrack. Assassin's Creed, all right, they got those nice melodies, all right. They got the period accurate tunes based on what period of time the Assassin's Creed is based off of. All right, very good historical music and tones. Really like that. Meanwhile, Dragon Quest, all right, there's some good orchestral work. All right, it's pretty grand and classical sense of adventure, but I think Assassin's Creed stands out a little bit more in depth, so I'm giving the nod to them. Next category we got going on is, well, 3 once again, which is that established date for Assassin's Creed 2007. Pretty young in comparison to a lot of these. Meanwhile, for Dragon Quest, 1986. A lot older. They're going to get a point, tied up 1-1. All right, next up was this 2. Category 2, going back to my personal preference. Never played Dragon Quest. Briefly played Assassin's Creed, but I really like Assassin's Creed and like what it's all about a lot more. So I'm going to give the nod to them. They go up 2-1. And the next category is going to be 5. Category 5 going to be the logo preference here between the two, Assassin's Creed and Dragon Quest. Assassin's Creed, simple, but cool. I like it. I like the symbol there. Meanwhile, for Dragon Quest, it's honestly kind of cool, kind of retro. It pops. There's a lot of colors to it. I kind of like Dragon Quest more. They're going to tie it up 2-2. We have a close matchup. Next up, we have Category 4. Category 4 is going to be number of games in the franchise. For Assassin's Creed, there's 13 in the series. Meanwhile, for Dragon Quest, there's about 40. So Dragon Quest comes back and beats Assassin's Creed 3-2. Moving on to the Big 16. Assassin's Creed, you've been assassinated. That's an upset, too. That's a top 10 seed and a 24th seed. So, all right. Next up, we have 25th seed Wizarding World, which is the Harry Potter franchise, against the 8th seed The Sims. First category is 9. Category 9 being, of course, the cultural significance, going back to that. All right, kind of like Star Wars, Harry Potter has its own significance itself, but that's not from the video games. The video games benefit from that, all right, from Harry Potter. So I don't rank them too high because of it. Meanwhile, Sims is one of the most successful simulation games ever. It's really popularized the genre, and people play it a lot. It's very popular. I'm going to give the nod here to The Sims. They go up 1-0. All right, next up is 7. Category 7 is going to be storyline. Of course, storyline, The Sims, there's not much storyline there itself. You kind of make your own story in a way. Meanwhile, Harry Potter, pretty in-depth, of course. So I'm going to give the nod here pretty easily to Wizarding World, tying it up 1-1. Next up is Category 1, which is revenue, what they're seated upon. Harry Potter, $86 million, all right, franchise revenue from the video games. Meanwhile, The Sims, $202 million. They get the point here. They're up 2-1. Next up, going once again in Category 5. We're not rolling any of the high categories. I have up to 16 in here. It's kind of crazy. Category 5, once again, being the logo between The Sims and Harry Potter. The Sims, pretty basic. It pops, though. I like the different transition shades of blue, but I don't love it all together. Meanwhile, for Harry Potter, Wizarding World, I love the wizard staffs or wands, whatever you call it, going around. The Wizarding World font is very cool. Not a lot of color, but I can bypass that. I like it better than The Sims. Another close matchup, 2-2. Next up is Category 4. Once again, number of games in the franchise. All right, for The Sims, we only have 4 games thus far. Meanwhile, for Wizarding World of Harry Potter, we have 13. Harry Potter is going to get the upset, back-to-back upsets, as they win 3-2, going on to the Big 16, and The Sims is out of here. All right, next up, we have the 5th seed FIFA soccer game going against the 28th seed Tom Clancy's. All right, of course, big shooter game. First category is subscribe. Hit me with that subscribe button if you like this tournament, want to see outdoor videos, food reviews, anything like that. You might as well do it while you're here and you have a moment. But for real, let's get category 14. All right, something a little different up in here. Category 14 is going to be difficulty. Harder the franchise, the better for the franchise in this situation. All right, so let's check it out here. Of course, Tom Clancy, especially like Rainbow Six Siege and Ghost Recon, feature tactical, high-stakes gameplay where it requires a lot of teamwork, patience, skill, very high learning arc. FIFA, I mean, if you don't understand soccer, it can be kind of hard, but overall, it's pretty easy to pick up and play. Comparatively, I have to give the nod here to Tom Clancy's. Also, as we roll, there's only one sport franchise per, whatever. So, like, for soccer, that's FIFA. There's no other soccer games. For football, there's only Madden sort of thing. Next up, category 16. Category 16 is going to be the last category, which is awards. The more prestigious awards, all right, the more accolades for the franchise, the better. That's going to get them the point here. All right, Tom Clancy has several awards. Best shooter 1 year, best tactical game. All right, Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon being the most prestigious games in the franchise. Meanwhile, FIFA, best sports game multiple years, has dominated the sports game community consistently, winning awards. Even though it's not typically a Game of the Year contender, I'm going to give the nod here to FIFA because they just dominate their category. Next category is 15. All right, we're really rolling all the later categories now. 15 is going to be modding community. The more moddable the game, the better in this category. So you want to see high modding within these games. All right, Tom Clancy, moderate modding community. The capability, kind of mid. All right, there's some modding, especially in Rainbow Six Siege. Has some modest modding going on through multiplayer-focused gameplay and different customizations that way. FIFA, again, a moderate modding community with some medium capability, mainly focused on updates to rosters and leagues, graphics, and enhancements. But I'm going to give the slight nod here to Rainbow Six Siege. I think there's just a little bit more you can do. And there's a little bit more of a modding presence there, maybe. But hit me with that like button, all right? I know round one's always a long one, so you might as well like it. You might as well hit that like button and do something. But for real, we got category 11 now. Category 11 is going to be multiplayer experience. So the game with more multiplayer capabilities is going to get the point here. And more enjoyable multiplayer as well. All right, FIFA, highly competitive online multiplayer, deep player base. All right, the Ultimate Team mode creates an addictive experience. There's so many people playing FIFA worldwide. Although Tom Clancy, all right, you got to give him some credit, especially with Rainbow Six Siege, The Division, both known for their tactical-based multiplayer, and at least used to be pretty big and toxic communities. But FIFA, just more people play it worldwide. It's meant to be a multiplayer game in itself, like the whole franchise, all right, not just some entries. So I'm giving the nod here to FIFA. They tie it up 2-2. Next up, we got category 10. Category 10 is going to be innovation. Which one's more innovative? FIFA, there's some mechanics, all right, because of the soccer and AI motion capture, but largely it sticks to a generic formula. There's nothing too innovative about it. Meanwhile, Tom Clancy, especially Rainbow Six and Splinter Cell, really innovated the tactical stealth shooter game style, offering more strategic and methodical approaches to combat games. Have to give the nod there to Tom Clancy. They barely edge out FIFA, all right, taking the shot. They are going to the Big 16. FIFA, another upset here. We have one of the last seeds upsetting a top 5 seed. They are out of here. 2 of the biggest sports franchises are done so far. All right. Next up, we have the 21st seed Gran Turismo against the 12th seed Resident Evil. And the first category is going to be 14, going back to 14, which is difficulty between Gran Turismo and Resident Evil. Resident Evil has challenging puzzles, resource management because of your storage, intense survival and horror elements. There's some very hard modes that they have in each game. Gran Turismo, though, realistic racing simulator, y'all. It demands precision, knowledge of car tuning, mastery of the driving mechanics, especially in the competitive modes. Both are pretty difficult franchises, but I'm going to give the slight edge here to Gran Turismo. They go up 1-0. All right, next up we have 15, going back to the later ones now. modding community between the two. Gran Turismo has a very low modding capability because of how heavily controlled the game is by the developers. All right, modding is nearly non-existent, so there's a very, very small modding community. Not a good modding game. Meanwhile, for Resident Evil, there is a pretty active modding community with some medium capability, especially with the more modern titles and the classic ones too, to be honest. Character models, textures, game rebalances. There's a good bit you could do there, and the modding community for Resident Evil is active, so they're going to tie it up 1-1. Next up is 6. Category 6 being character popularity. And of course, Gran Turismo doesn't have a strong iconic character. So what I'm saying is Resident Evil is going to get this point here 2-1. The next category we have is category 8. Category 8 is going to be going back to that soundtrack. Soundtrack's been kind of important so far in this first play-in game. All right, Gran Turismo. Got some jazzy, related, upbeat electronic race tracks. All right, subtle, non-intrusive music enhancing your racing experience. Very nice, very nice. Resident Evil, known for its creepy ambiance, sparse, haunting melodies that sets the tone. Not a huge, iconic music, but just enough to really set the tone. Yeah, Gran Turismo is more of a background thing that just helps make it nicer. Resident Evil, it helps coralize the horror experience. I'm gonna give the nod here to Resident Evil. They get a 3-1 win against Gran Turismo, going on to the Big 16. We had a few upsets in a row, but not this time, as Gran Turismo loses the race. They are out of here. All right, we are getting close to halfway. I know these first rounds are long, so grab your popcorn, take a break, take a leak, grab an energy drink, whatever you need to do. But I hope you're still interested. We got the 13th seed Legend of Zelda going against the 20th seed Tomb Raider. And I realize that the bowl has been out of camera most of the time. I've been shaking it, so I'll try to get better at that as we start with Category 4. Category 4 is going to be total number of games in the series. Legend of Zelda, we got 30 entries in the franchise. Meanwhile, for who's the other one? Tomb Raider, we have 14. So about half as much. Legend of Zelda gets the first point. Next up is 13. This may be our first time getting category 13, y'all. Which is, going to be DLCs. All right, the game franchises with the better DLCs is going to be the one who wins the category. All right, Legend of Zelda. All right. One of the least DLC heavy franchises in this tournament. All right, there's a couple in a couple of the games, but rarely do the developers focus on DLCs. Tomb Raider is very similar. All right, there's been some extra side quest DLCs, but generally not many. But just a tad more overall, tad more emphasis than Legend of Zelda. Tomb Raider is going to tie it up 1-1. All right. Next up is Category 5. Category 5 is going to be the logo preference here, of course. Tomb Raider, kind of cool, the red and white, but the font's kind of basic. I don't like it a whole lot overall. Legend of Zelda's pretty iconic, pretty retro, bold, font's cool. I like the red. I'm giving the nod here to Legend of Zelda. They go up 2-1. Next up is Category 7. Category 7 being the storyline here. I mean, this one, you can make arguments for either way, but I have some explanations written down, so I'm going to go to that. All right, Lara Croft's adventures, very story-heavy, a lot of ancient mysteries, personal growth in the character. The storyline is very solid, definitely top 10. But I think Legend of Zelda is just timeless. Battles between good and evil. All right, Link on his adventures. All right, the rich lore of Hyrule is cool. So I'm going to go Legend of Zelda for sure. I think there's just a bit more depth. So they're going to get a pretty convincing win here, 3-1 against Tomb Raider, knocking out Tomb Raider. Legend of Zelda, all right, goes on to the Big 16. Next up, we have the 29th seed Halo against the 4th seed GTA, which is getting a new game here in the next year or two. First up is Category 3. Category 3 being the established date. All right, for GTA, 1997, late 90s. For Halo, 2001, 4 years younger. GTA gets the first point here, going up 1-0. How surprised are you that Halo's 29th seed? We got Category 9 now. Category 9 being the cultural significance between the two. Between Halo and Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto, all right, you got the open world design, revolutionized the sandbox game, a lot of attention, a lot of quality, a lot of controversy. There's a lot of cultural significance there. All right, meanwhile, for Halo's up there too. You know, Halo was really popular for a long time. All right, very popular shooter game within various communities. And it has some strong cultural significance, but I'm just giving the nod here to GTA. I think there's a little bit more. They go up 2-0. And the next category we have is 2. My personal preference here, sparsely played both of these games, but I like the abilities and the freedom you have in GTA. So I'm going to go with GTA, and we have our first sweep here, 3-0, as Halo didn't even put up a fight. All right, play the Halo Breaking Benjamin theme song all you want, but it's not happening. Great song. GTA, you're going to the Big 16. Next up, we have the 3rd overall seed Call of Duty COD against the 30th, third to last seed Just Dance. Very two different games, as we have Category 16. The last one is going to be the awards, accolades here. All right, Call of Duty has pretty consistently won Best Multiplayer Game, Best Shooter Game. Not always a Game of the Year contender, but consistently receives awards and accolades. Meanwhile, for Just Dance, very minimal in comparison here. Probably last, to be honest, in terms of accolades in this tournament. Best family game once, best music game a couple times, but it's not a big contender for any of the big awards that you would see in the video game industry. So, Call of Duty, first point pretty strongly. Next up, we have Category 11. Category 11 is going to be the multiplayer experience between the two. Already, you know, Call of Duty, one of the top ones. That's what it's, one of the core concepts is it's multiplayer, Just Dance. I mean, there's some co-op versus, but nowhere close. Call of Duty, easy 2-0 lead. What will we roll next? Will Just Dance even get on the board? We got Category 2. My personal preference here, Just Dance is kind of fun, but Call of Duty a lot more addictive and fun. So I have to give the nod here to Call of Duty. Easy sweep as they go to the Big 16. Just Dance. Dance your way out of here. Dance the night away. Dance the heartbreak away. We got the 19th seed next up against the 19th seed WWE against the 14th seed Need for Speed. Racing versus wrestling. We got Category 4 to start us off. Category 4 is going to be number of games in the series. For WWE, there's about 30 entries. Need for Speed, 26, a few less. WWE actually going to get the point here, going up 1-0. Next up, we got Category 16. Going back to the awards and the accolades between the two. Need for Speed has won Best Racing Game a couple times. Not a super heavily awarded franchise, but very much often dominates the racing games. Meanwhile, for WWE, I mean, Best Fighting Game once or twice. Best Sports Game. several genre-specific awards, just like Need for Speed, but definitely a lot less influential. So I'm going to give the nod here to Need for Speed. They tied up 1-1. All right, next up we have category 15. Category 15 going to be the modding community between WWE and Need for Speed. Need for Speed has very low modding capabilities and a very niche and small modding scene altogether because it's very limited to graphical and vehicle mods. Meanwhile, WWE, very low and niche community and capability as well, mainly focused on the character models, new wrestlers, and skins. But I'm going to give the nod here to WWE. I think they're a little bit more of a committed modding community and just a tad more that you can do. So WWE goes up 2-1. And then we have 14, just going backwards, 16, 15, 14. 14 is going to be the difficulty between the two. WWE, not very difficult compared to other fighting franchises like Mortal Kombat. You can kind of pick it up and play pretty easily. Need for Speed, not as difficult, more forgiving than, Gran Turismo, let's say. But you definitely have to have some precision, driving, and knowledge of tuning to perform well. So I think they're going to tie it up 2-2. Next up, we have Category 9. Category 9 is going to be the cultural significance between Need for Speed and WWE. Need for Speed, one of the most iconic racing games, all right, brought high-speed car games to the mainstream, and has pretty good cultural influence, I would say. WWE, pretty popular among wrestling fans, but doesn't have a super strong cultural relevance outside of the wrestling community. So I'm giving the nod here. Need for Speed barely going to edge out and beat the race between WWE, suplexing them as WWE is out, and Need for Speed races to the Big 16. All right, we have a handful or so matchups. Stay with me. You're going to want to see this one. We got the 11th seed Sonic the Hedgehog against the 22nd seed Red Dead Redemption. First category is going to be 11. Category 11 is going to be multiplayer between Sonic and Red Dead. Red Dead, Sonic, there's multiplayer experience in certain Sonic games, but it's mainly a secondary modes focused on like party games and racing. It's not a core of the franchise. Red Dead, mainly kind of online, but there is Red Dead is mainly kind of single player, but there's Red Dead Online, which offers rich multiplayer experience through co-op and competitive modes similar to GTA Online. So I'm giving the nod here to Red Dead Redemption. They get the first point, 1-0. Next category we got is Category 1. Haven't pulled this much. The 11th seed Sonic the Hedgehog has $160 million revenue. Red Dead Redemption, or Red Dead, $89 million. Sonic, going to tie it up 1-1. Category 12 next. Category 12 is going to be adaptations. I think this is our first time getting the adaptations. The last category we haven't pulled, I think, is this one. So, movie and book, TV show adaptations based on the video game. Sonic has 2 successful live-action films, multiple comics and novels. All right, very popular between films, cartoons, etc. Has done well commercially based off of the games. Not so much for Red Dead. Okay, there's no movies, no TV shows, no notable books. There's not a lot of adaptations to it. So Sonic's going to get the nod here, going up 2-1. All right, Category 13 is going to be the DLCs. Red Dead Redemption 2 specifically offers expansions for its online mode. Red Dead Redemption 1 includes the famous Undead Nightmare DLC, and there's overall pretty big content expansion within the franchise. Meanwhile, for Sonic, the occasional DLC feature will come out, or additional characters or missions, but very minimal focus on DLCs. Red Dead Redemption is going to tie it up 2-2, or Red Dead. Red Dead is the franchise. Red Dead Redemption is a specific entry. We got category 6, all right, to possibly finish this off, and that's going to be character popularity. Well, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog, very, very iconic, the third most iconic. Meanwhile, Red Dead has Arthur Morgan at 29th place, but Sonic, of course, a lot bigger. They're going to get the slight nod here. Going to the Big 16, Red Dead, you're dead. You're out of here. Next up, we have the 27th seed Mortal Kombat against the 6th seed Wii. Those Wii-specific Wii games. First category we have is 10. Category 10, going to be innovation here. Mortal Kombat, pretty big innovation for the fighting games, of course. Street Fighter-like, you know, they're right there with them. Some mechanics and stuff like that. Meanwhile, Wii, definitely a lot more innovative. Okay, the Wii itself as a console revolutionized motion-based gaming, and a lot of the Wii games involved that, made motion control mainstream. Wii is definitely one of the most innovative franchises. They're going up 1-0. Next up is category 2, my personal preference. I like Mortal Kombat a good bit. I like Mortal Kombat, although it pisses me off. Wii, just a core part of my childhood, had a lot more fun with the Wii games, like Wii Sports. So I'm going to give the nod here to Wii. They go up 2-0, threatening to sweep Mortal Kombat. Next up, we got category 4, which is going to be a number of games in the series. For Wii, it's 11. There's 11 Wii games. Meanwhile, for Mortal Kombat, there's 20 in the series, so they won't get swept. They punch back. It's 2-1. Next up is 14. Category 14 being the difficulty. Well, obviously, most Wii games aren't super difficult. They're made for children and families. Mortal Kombat does have a pretty high learning arc if you get really competitive. A lot of combos and stuff to move. So Mortal Kombat going to get the point, tying it up 2-2. It's now a grudge match. Next up, we got category 15. Category 15 going to be the modding community. All right, Mortal Kombat has a very low capability of modding, very niche modding community. But, you know, there is some minor gameplay tweaks and skin models that you can mod. Not much, but however, the Wii, there's like nothing, all right? The only modding communities are people who homebrew hacking the console to change things, and that's just so small and niche. There's very little capability there. Wii's probably, that's its biggest pitfall in the franchise. Mortal Kombat is going to come back from 2-0 and win 3-2, punching their way into the Big 16. Huge upset as Wii is out of here. Next up is the Lego franchise at number 7. And the 26th seed Borderlands. The first category we are going to draw is category 1. Ooh, bad for Borderlands, $85 million revenue. Lego, just over $200 million, 205 to be exact. They get a quick and easy point, going up 1-0. Next up, we have category 6. Category 6 is going to be the character popularity. None for Lego. And, none for Borderlands either, so we're going to re-roll. And that's going to give us category 8. Category 8 is going to be the soundtrack between Lego and Borderlands. Borderlands has a mix of wild western, post-apocalyptic, sci-fi tones, unique musical identity for sure. Lego, it's very lighthearted, quirky, whimsical kind of music. Nice, but nothing too crazy, nothing too significant. Borderlands going to get a point here, 1-1. All right. Okay. Not rolling that fucking good. There we go. Category 5. Category 5 is being the logo preference. Haven't got this in a minute. Lego, really iconic. Color scheme's decent. You know it when you see it. It's not bad. Not my favorite, but not bad. Meanwhile, for Borderlands, it kind of has a different texture to it. It's a little bit different. The yellow and brown color scheme, they're kind of rust-looking thing. I like it. I'm going to give the nod here to Borderlands, actually. They're going to go up 2-1. Next up is Category 7. Category 7 being the storyline here. Whichever has deeper storyline. Lego franchise is mainly just playing off of other things. There's no storyline in itself except for maybe Lego City. They just adapt existing franchises, and that's no fun. That's not original. Meanwhile, for Borderland, it's kind of a lighthearted and humorous series, but there is surprisingly deep narrative and lore regarding the characters in the post-apocalyptic world that's full of greed and chaos. So I'm going to give the nod here to Borderlands, who upsets Lego, a top 10 seed. Borderlands, one of the last seeds, and they're going to get a ticket to the Big 16. Lego, you have to rebuild because you're out of here. Third to last matchup, we have the 23rd seed Battlefield against the 10th seed Final Fantasy. First category is 11. Category 11, as I start losing my voice, is going to be multiplayer between Battlefield and Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy, of course, known for its single-player RPGs. There's some MMO multiplayer communities and a couple of the games, like with the raids and dungeons and co-op quests, but not huge. Mainly focusing on a first-person experience. Battlefield, known for its large-scale multiplayer experience, destructible environments, teamwork emphasis, yada yada. Battlefield definitely getting the point here. They go up 1-0. Next up is Category 2, my personal preference. I've never played Final Fantasy. I've played Battlefield a couple times and I liked it. They go up 2-0. Next up is Category 10. Category 10 being the innovation between the two. Final Fantasy, known for constantly innovating storytelling, character design, and combat systems. Groundbreaking RPG franchise. All right, we can't argue against that. Introduce new gameplay features like the active time battle system, or if you want a different example, the fully realized 3D worlds, the FFV, Final Fantasy fucking 7 is what I'm trying to say. Meanwhile, for Battlefield, the open world combat sort of thing, or the big map combat sort of thing, is cool. All right, it kind of revolutionized some of the shooter games, but nothing compared to how Final Fantasy has revolutionized the gaming industry. They get a point here. They're down 2-1. All right, next up we got Category 13. Category 13 is going to be DLCs. Battlefield frequently introduces new maps, weapons, vehicles, cosmetics as DLCs. Several games also have their own expansions and new campaigns. Pretty cool. All right, a good bit going on for them. Final Fantasy, however, especially the modern era of Final Fantasy, has numerous DLC packs, including story expansions, bonus dungeons, character packs, like in Final Fantasy 9. So definitely more DLC experience in Final Fantasy. They're going to tie it up 2-2. And Category 4. And if you didn't realize already, I don't play a lot of video games, so my knowledge is very ground level aside from the research I've done. In case some of y'all have made it all this way and go, man, this fucker really doesn't know his stuff. I really don't. I'm trying the number of games in the franchise for these two. Final Fantasy has 20. Meanwhile, Battlefield has 15. So Final Fantasy kind of climbs back. They're going to win 3-2. Going to the Big 16 battlefield. You lost the battle. You are out of here. Second to last matchup, we have NBA 2K against the 15th seed NBA 2K against the 18th seed Monster Hunter. Very close regarding the seedings. We're starting with Category 11. Category 11, of course, being that multiplayer between the two. Monster Hunter, of course, standout co-op multiplayer experience. Team up to take down massive monsters. Skill base, teamwork, strategy. Very good. Very multiplayer heavy. NBA 2K, though, especially with the park modes and My Career, highly competitive online fan base and esports, esports presence. I'm going to give the slight nod here to NBA 2K. They got 1-0. Next up, we got Category 2, my personal preference. I've rarely played either of these, but I did own a Monster Hunter game, and I really enjoy it, and it's something that I would like to get into more. However, I've always been a fan of kind of the sports games. I'm very sports driven, so I am going to go with NBA 2K here. Some people are like, damn it. So NBA 2K leads 2-0, threatening to sweep Monster Hunter, get the 3-pointer on them. We'll see as we go to Category 13, back to the DLCs. Monster Hunter, very DLC heavy, especially Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise, new weapons, new monsters, new maps, seasonal events. All right, NBA 2K also very DLC heavy, especially with My Player and My Team card packs, player updates, and cosmetics. But I think there's a little bit more substance to Monster Hunter, so they will drop a point on 2K themselves. Next up, we got Category 4, going to the number of games in the series. For 2K, we got 25. For Monster Hunter, 45. 20 more. They tie it up 2-2. All right. Next category is 6. Category 6 is going to be character popularity. Of course, there is none for 2K and there's none for Monster Hunter, so we will re-roll. Ooh. That's tough. Category 1, you hate drawing that last when it's a sudden death sort of thing. Monster Hunter, 18th seed, $100 million revenue. NBA 2K, $148 million. Edging them out, going up 3-2, dropping the clutch 3-pointer, moving on to the Big 16, just like in March Madness. Monster Hunter, you've been hunted. You are out of here. Time for the final matchup as this video surpasses 45 minutes. Hope you're still with me because we got the 31st seed, second to last seed, The Witcher, against the second overall seed, Pokemon. Pokemon's a juggernaut. And we got Category 8 to start us off, which is going to be soundtrack. The Witcher, it's known for Slavic, folk-inspired score. The music is incredible, especially in The Witcher 3 with the atmosphere, the emotion regarding the whole world. Pokemon, of course, has uplifting, memorable tunes, battle and theme and town themes. Tracks like Lavender Town and Champion Battle are part of the culture. However, I think The Witcher just has a little bit more substance and a little bit more emotion to the scores. They get a point here. They're going to need it. Next up, we got Category 5. Category 5 is going to be the logo between The Witcher and Pokemon. The Witcher's pretty cool in of itself. I like it. Decent logo. Cool. Pokemon, very iconic though. Nostalgic. Reminds me of my childhood. I like the color scheme. Got to go with Pokemon here. They tied up 1-1. All right, next up, we got Category 13. Category 13 is, once again, going to the DLCs, I believe. So, between Pokemon and The Witcher. The Witcher 3 specifically has 2 major DLCs, Heart of Stone and Blood and Wine, which are considered almost full games in themselves. And then there's multiple other DLCs around as well. Meanwhile, Pokemon only recently has embraced DLCs like Sword and Shield expansion passes. Otherwise, more traditional content, not focused on DLCs. The Witcher going to get a point here. They could pull off the biggest upset of the game of the video, we got category 6, which is going to be character popularity. Pikachu is the second most popular. So even though Gerald of Rivia, all right, is ranked 13th, not like Pikachu, Pokemon ties it up 2-2. And finally, to end this out, we got category 1. What a bummer. The Witcher, $76 million revenue, not competing with the massive $480 million revenue that Pokemon has. Pokemon is going to win here and move on to the Big 16. The Witcher, you're out of here. All right. Wow. That was long and exciting. We had a couple sweeps here and there. Surprisingly, Halo got swept. Just Dance surprisingly didn't get swept. We had a lot of close games, to be honest, and we had some pretty big upsets overall. So if you're looking for a Cinderella story in the Big 16, the second round, may I suggest the 24th seed Dragon Quest, the 25th seed Harry Potter, the 28th seed Tom Clancy's, the 27th seed Mortal Kombat, the 26th seed Borderlands. We have a lot of underdogs in the middle of round 2. Hit me with that like button again if you like this video. If you're excited for the next one, hit that subscribe button. I will see you in round 2. Southern Woods out.